right, welcome back, everybody, to Real Talk Realty Podcast, where we put the real in real estate. You're with your host, JD Crisp.
And Gabby Robinson.
And Louie Namick.
And we're really excited to have you back here this week. One of the things that I wanted to kind of bring to your guys' attention was the real reason why we're doing this is because there's a very, the real estate transaction process, to those of you who either haven't bought or haven't sold, or maybe it was years ago that you've done it the last time, it can be a confusing process. So all we are intending here to do is get you as much information as possible so that you can make better informed decisions for you and your family, and take those golden nuggets that you might learn here and apply them to your own situation. So that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Well, we are. And, the more you know, the less stress you are feeling during a transaction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that, too. It's like you can't, when it comes to making any type of decision, you can't do it until you have all the information. So until then, it's just all speculation.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Especially first-time homeowners, they go in not knowing anything about real estate.
Nothing.
And it's a scary process.
Oh, my gosh. It can be scary. It's even scary. Like, we joke about real estate agents, even like selling your own home can be scary.
Oh, Rod, our own broker, sold his own house, and he said the minute he hit live, he was stressed.
Yeah. Which actually, in turn, it helps us better serve you because we know exactly what you're going through.
Yeah. That's right. You do.
It could definitely, and the same thing happened with us when we were selling our condo down in Fairfax. It was the same thing. I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know how to price the home. And as soon as we hit active, I was like, wait, there's no showings yet? Oh, my gosh.
Right.
What's happening?
Yeah.
I was super scared. We're excited to be back with you guys today, and we figured we'd start off the podcast with just a little bit of general insight on the local market and kind of what's going on here in the area. So there's some pretty interesting things that are kind of happening that we weren't really anticipating, but I did not pull it up on my phone like I thought I did. It just exited out the page. But a couple of things that I do remember off the top of my head was the inventory, right? So back during COVID, when it was going really crazy, there is what they call the days on market, obviously, but then the time that it goes on the market to the time that it goes under contract. And it was actually like before, there was a time period where it was like 7 days. It was like 5 to 7 days. Or less, depending on your specific zip code. And now we're over 30 days. We're at 36 days from the time that a property, and this is in regards to Frederick County, just so you guys know specifically where we're talking about. And that's the longest it's been in quite some time.
That's so true. Yeah. And not only that, what do you think about the prices?
Yeah. So right now the median purchase price on a house here in Frederick County is $495,000, which is, by the way, over the last over the last 14 years. So since 2010 is the highest that it's ever been.
The highest.
And climbing.
Yeah.
And climbing. What's like one of the number one questions that people who are thinking about buying or thinking about selling are asking you guys when they're asking? You're always asking about, is it the right time, right?
Mm-hmm. It's the right time, or shouldn't I wait till the interest rates drop?
Yeah, or they'll say, I think the home prices are just going to drop, so I'm going to wait for the home prices to drop.
Right. That's the number one thing. And there's a couple catch-22s with both of those situations, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we talked a little bit about it before about, the idea of the interest rates coming back down into, like right now they're high 6s, low 7s. So if they come back down into the mid-5s, that's going to open up all the buyers that were out in the woodworks, and they're going to come out into the market because money's cheaper. And then that in turn is going to create more competition on whatever house that you end up falling in love with, and pushing that price back up. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's like, you're going to get a little bit better of a rate, save more monthly, but you're going to be spending a lot more, on the house itself.
You're not going to be able to refinance and lower your mortgage at that point. You got to choose your poison.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing there. So there's some things that, can change the situation a little bit, but overall, the idea of waiting is only ever going to cost people more money. That's just what the data says. It's not something I'm deciding. So when people ask that question, my question then back to them is, well, what's their situation? Because some people need to buy, right? And some people are just kind of flirting with the idea. And so I wouldn't say, if you had to buy, then you have to buy. So, right, we'll help you navigate that process. But if you're just thinking about it, you know, it might not be the best situation for you.
Also, if you're just flirting with the idea, maybe you should get informed to find out whether or not you are going to save money in the long run, right?
Right.
Not wait and do it now, because it may cost you money in the end.
Exactly. And it's funny because there's actually a graph, and I'm getting it pulled up here. It's an interesting graph, and I show this to everybody who thinks about waiting, not to try to convince them or anything, only really just so that they can see this is what could happen by just waiting. It starts off down here back in 2010, and it zigzags. And it goes all the way up to where we're at now. And even when the rates started to go up, we thought, okay, this is going to level out. You know, we're going to really start to see, it
Plateau
off.
The prices. And it didn't happen.
It just didn't. And that's because of an inventory problem.
That is correct.
You know, unless we wake up tomorrow and there's 1,000 new homes on the market, and even then, I don't even think 1,000 new homes would solve the problem. Yeah. But people still need a place to live. And there's just really not much out there. I mean, there's much more right now than there was 2 years ago, but it is still nowhere near, the supply is nowhere near the demand.
That's true. But I still would hesitate on anybody waiting
for prices to drop.
Don't do that. I mean, there are homes out there that you can buy, but like JD said, the inventory is still a little low, but it's climbing up as we speak.
Exactly. So just to get back into that, so the month supply of inventory, and when they say month supply, what they're referring to actually is, how long is it going to take if no new houses come on the market? How long is it going to take for all the homes that are currently on the market to actually get sold? And right now that number is 1.7 months, which is actually up 13.3%. From this time last year. Now, again, the data that I'm looking at right now, because the fourth quarter numbers haven't come out, so this is just based off of the MLS and the third quarter numbers reported for Maryland, but I'm specifically referring to Frederick County. And another interesting fact here was that the percentage of original price received, so what they're saying there is you list a house for a specific price, and then how much of that do you fulfill? And right now we're at 100%. So that means that on average, any house that goes on the market here in Frederick County is getting 100% of what they're listed at. That's actually down, and that's down 1.3% from this time last year. So this time last year, you were going to pay about 1.3% more for the property. So that's a little bit more of a light at the end of the tunnel for buyers. I mean, at least on average, you're not having to go so much over. Now, again, case-by-case basis, right?
That's correct.
Because we're seeing some beautiful houses that are getting a lot of attention out there. So the average sales price actually in Frederick is $540,000, which is up 7.1% from this time last year. And I'm excited to see what that number looks like when the fourth quarter numbers come out. Probably a few weeks into January, they're going to come out with the fourth quarter numbers. But this graph, you can't really see it because I'm over here. But look at this. This is I show this to everybody that wants to wait. You see it?
The home prices just continue.
Isn't that just
increase.
Crazy?
Yeah. Well, I've actually had several buyers who have waited. Right. I've been working with them for over a year. They've waited, but they've just seen the prices continue to go up. Mm-hmm. And their reason for waiting last year was, so I believe the prices are going to go down. And now they're like regretting not purchasing last year when things were still not low, but because Frederick, I feel like, has increased significantly over the past couple of years.
There were people even waiting and telling me that, well, no, we're going to wait for the real estate floor to drop. Mm-hmm. They thought that we were going to have a 2008 all over again. And that wasn't possible because we don't have the inventory to do that for the market to drop like that.
So that was a completely different situation. Everybody, I do remember that, Louis. Everybody was trying to make a comparison between what was happening in 2008 to what was happening in our market. And that was simply just two different things. We were trying to compare apples to oranges.
Correct.
This is simply a supply and demand issue, and there just wasn't enough supply for the demand. And so, like I said, it would just be just have to be a massive home building. And even the home builders in the area are behind.
That's right. And 2008, the reason it happened was because so many people had mortgages they could not afford, and the market was saturated with foreclosures.
Yeah.
Now, it's a completely different story. Homeowners have more equity in their homes and there are hardly any foreclosures compared to 2008.
Yeah, and that was also, and I'd love to get one of our preferred lenders on here to kind of give us some of their insight on some of that. But I do know for a fact that obviously the lending kind of process has gotten way more strict. You know, back then you could say you made $1 million and
nobody would check.
Nobody would check, and then that's what happened. They would just put whatever they needed on the application in order to afford the home that they were dreaming of, and then 6 months later they'd say, "Whoop," and then. That's when a little recession hit, and then it was just tough for everybody. It's a very resilient market here. We're blessed to be working in it with all of the government jobs and kind of everything going up the road. So it's a blessing to be in this market. And it's a huge opportunity for homeowners to capture that kind of equity, right? Because if you're looking at the last 14 years and you're just kind of making a decision based off of the data, it's saying, okay, well, in 10 years, according to this, I'm going to have equity.
People talk about, like, is real estate really a good investment? Like, is it a smart investment? Should I invest in real estate? And I know I've heard it from Rob thousands of times, but real estate is almost like your safest investment.
For sure.
You know, you always need a place to live. People are always going to look to buy, to rent, so as a investor, you want to invest in real estate.
Absolutely.
I saw this this article that said, like, the richest people in the world are real estate investors.
Oh, for sure.
Whether it's commercial, residential.
Well, think about it. Listen, there's a saying out there, God is not making any more land, right? So what we got is what we got, and now it's about, how far are we going to develop this land and take it and run with it. And there's opportunities, especially in markets like this.
But one thing too, when I don't really think people understand that just because a place right now is affordable, the more people migrate there, the more the prices are going to continue to rocket. That's exactly what happened to Frederick. 2 years ago, everyone migrated to Frederick because it was way more affordable. And then what happened? Now it's like skyrocketed like crazy.
Well, the way that I view it,
the early bird gets the worm.
Exactly. And the way that I kind of view that entire situation is everything is coming down south from DC, right? So the people that are living currently, say, renting in maybe Montgomery County, and they're working in Montgomery County, and they're trying to buy there, they can't find what they want there, so then they come over to Frederick County. Yeah. Then the people in Frederick County that are working in Frederick County, and they're going to Washington County. And we're seeing that trickle down, which was one of the main reasons why I actually got my West Virginia real estate license, was because I'm thinking that in the next 10 years, it's going to be absolutely booming. I mean, I personally, one of my best friends actually just closed on his house over in Harper's Ferry, beautiful area. And that house, if you just pick it up and you put it in Maryland, it's, however many, $50,000, $100,000 more for the same exact house. Yes. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. Okay, yeah, maybe you drive an extra 15 to 20 minutes on your commute or whatever, but, that's just what it is. So to me, that was the main attraction for me with West Virginia, because I really do feel like that place is going to be booming. And the way that they're building out there already is incredible.
Yes, it is. And some of the builders out there are really putting out a really good product.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a lot of them. And that's kind of a cool thing to kind of lead into new construction. So, I've had people before that were out looking at properties, pre-existing homes on the market, and because of the, attention a hot home may get or the bidding war that may occur, they may find it a better fit for them to pursue a new construction home, strictly because sometimes there's incentivized rates.
Absolutely.
You can get a little bit of a point or a point and a half better on the interest rate. They may also be advertising closing cost assistance, which is huge.
Yeah, and some of the builders are doing that.
Yeah, some of them do both. I've seen recently where some of them will pair an incentivized rate along with, $10,000+ towards your closing costs. And the great part about that is you're not competing with anybody else, and you're getting a brand new home.
That's
and
true.
They have warranty. A lot of them, when you purchase the house, they give you the warranty for it as well. So
most of them, pretty much every builder I know is going to be coming with a pretty good warranty. Some of them have like a 10-year structural warranty. And so that's nice, and a lot of them will call you back in a year and say, how's the house? And, is there anything I need to come fix or whatever? And within that year, as long as you're calling usually the project manager, they'll come out there and address whatever concerns, may have happened. So
too, like new construction, also the value increases a lot quicker with new construction because it's a new home.
Yeah.
Especially if you buy a home in the first phase or two.
Correct.
You're definitely going to end up with equity at the end of that phase. So low interest rate, closing incentive.
It's like if you've, lost so many offers on a resale, why wouldn't you go with a new construction builder who's going to give you closing assistance, who's going to give you a promotional APR rate, and who's going to give you also like the warranty, so you don't, you have that ease, like I'm not going to move in and something breaks like a month later and I'm fully responsible for it, Yeah,
so you don't have to renovate.
Yeah, right. You don't have to worry about upgrading anything like later down the road because it's a brand new house. Like the chances of something major going wrong, and if it does go wrong a year later, most likely it's going to be covered under warranty.
Definitely more peace of mind.
Yes.
Yep.
Not that there's anything wrong with buying a pre-existing home. It really just depends on your individual situation. But to bounce back over into what we were talking about as far as the market and real estate conditions, this is actually some numbers from Montgomery County. So a little bit more north. Okay, so Montgomery County is a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit more competitive. And you can see that here by the numbers because the average property marketing period in Frederick County, we just said, was 36 days. In Montgomery County, it's 21 days. So properties are still moving a little bit faster, and actually their percentage of original price received, versus what they listed it for versus what they get is actually a 0.5% higher. So, and that just kind of is a testament to show you how competitive that market actually is. Not to mention their median sales price is $622,000, which is up 7.2%. The growth is kind of the same, but it's just everything in Montgomery County is a little bit more expensive. And then to jump back over into Washington County, the median sales price there is $320,000, so much more affordable there. And the average property marketing period there is 29 days, which seems kind of in tune with what I'm seeing, at least with my own listings and everything over there. And the month supply, though, is much larger than both Frederick County and Montgomery County with 2.3 months. So that means it would take, if no new listings came on the market for the next 2.3 months, it would take that long for it to sell completely out.
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
Yep. And so right now, homes for sale, they're, on average is around 308 homes. But a good thing for buyers, percentage of original price received is at 98.5. So out of all three counties that we just looked at, they're the only ones that are getting less on average than what they've listed for. So something to maybe pay attention to if you're currently trying to look for something in Frederick but can't quite find out. The median purchase price of Frederick was $495, and we're talking about $320 in Washington County.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. So, and actually, that's really interesting. The median sales price in Washington County is the exact same as it was last year. 0%. Didn't go up any. Didn't go down any. It's exactly where it was last year.
So let's touch upon a different subject.
Let's do it.
What do you think of the new ruling that came out this year with NAR?
NAR is the National Association of Realtors, for those of you who don't know, and there was recently a huge lawsuit that encompassed a bunch of different large brokerages that are very well known. And the end result basically came down to many changes on our day-to-day basis of what we do, and there's been some adjustments. There's also been quite a few realtors just leave our field. I want to say shortly after the announcement, I thought I heard somewhere that it was around 1 million real estate agents were out of the business.
That's a lot of real estate agents.
Yeah, that's huge.
So what's the number one change that real estate agents are having a hard time with? Some agents are having a hard time. Some agents love it.
So one of the big changes was the buyer representation agreement. So up until this point, prior to this lawsuit, if you as a buyer had reached out to Gabby, Louie, or I, and you wanted to go see a property, we could take you out there, show it to you, no questions asked, wouldn't have to have any documentation signed, although it was highly recommended that you would get a buyer representation agreement to establish that fiduciary kind of responsibility to the client. It wasn't required. At least until you went to submit an offer, until you were fully representing them, right?
Correct.
So now, because of the new changes, it is now required that we establish that relationship with our buyers. Before we even open the door, we actually have to do that. And we're subject to
fines and penalties.
Penalties if they were to send I guess it's called a secret shop or something. I've never had to deal with one of those,
Yeah.
thankfully, but I wouldn't have a problem because we do things by the book here.
Right.
I have a very, very easy way to explain to our clients that situation. It's been working well. You know, I let them know that everybody in the country is going to do it. No matter what buyer you are or what real estate agent, everybody has to have a signed agency agreement.
Right.
And it's really no big deal. You're going to have to sign one, like you said,
Even if you buy
when you
the
go
house,
off for a contract.
Right.
So
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is like, okay, so with like listings now, there's a huge change with the listing side too, right?
that's correct.
So up until this point prior to the lawsuit, now some will argue that commissions have always been negotiable, right? And that's true, okay? But to anybody just looking at a property out there, up until this point, sellers were paying buyers' agents. No ifs, ands, or buts. So generally speaking, somebody would sign a listing to say 5%, whatever, you know, everybody's got their own fee and it encompasses whatever their value is. But it would be split between this listing agent and the buyer's agent. And now it is actually the responsibility of the buyer in some situations to be liable for the commission to pay their buyer's real estate agent. And that's because sellers are not required to pay a buyer's agent if they don't feel it.
Right.
If they don't want to, they don't have to.
Well, what are you seeing in the market? What's reality?
The reality is that we have some forms and addendums that we're including into our offers where we're actually telling the listing agent up front that our offer is contingent upon our compensation being satisfied by the seller. So we're just, in other words, we're writing in our commission percentage into the offer. And I'm telling my sellers too, you know, I'm prepping them for that because some of them have heard about first off, I usually ask them, I'm like, have you heard about this? Just because I want them to know kind of what the situation is. And I give them an option. You can go ahead and you can offer a buyer agency compensation, or you can, keep it just compensating me as your listing agent, but just be prepared that people that are writing offers on your property are going to be including that some sort of compensation involved.
Or they may not come see your property.
That is the big thing, right? So, and another thing, for those of you who didn't know, it was always public knowledge on the percentage of what we were going to be getting compensated. It was always advertised on each listing. So if you were to click a property several months ago, before August, before the decision was made, you would see the property, and then you would then see buyer agency compensation, sub-agent compensation, and it would lay it all out there nice and neat. So now when we look, there is no advertising of compensation allowed on anybody's listing in any way, shape, or form. However, it does not stop a buyer's agent from calling a listing agent to see if that particular seller is offering compensation.
Correct. And I've had 2 listing appointments in the last week. And I've told both my clients the situation, and both agreed to pay the buyer's compensation.
Wow.
They want to market their house.
Yeah, they want to sell it.
And they want to sell it. Their house. They want to sell it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I think also too on the buyer side, I've had a lot of buyers scared with this new law,
right,
that they're like, well, I can't afford a buyer agency. And I think back when you were saying, like, what are you still seeing? I'm still seeing seller pay the buyer's agencies.
yes.
I haven't had any yet that they haven't paid it, because even if they're not offering it, once you write it into the offer, they're accepting it. But 2, also, there are very creative ways around making sure that your agent is being paid. So I think for those buyers that are kind of scared, I don't have X amount of money to pay my agent. If you have a good agent, your agent's going to make sure that they find their creative ways to make sure that you're not paying that.
Yeah.
And that it's coming out.
One creative thing, it's like this, finding a property that's maybe been on the market for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Just, you think of it, it's all a new, yes, it's a new ruling, but it's just a new way to kind of navigate. It's actually a new way to negotiate, really, is the way that I kind of see it. Because, all right, like what if there's a property that's like super hot and it's getting a lot of offers, and you have a buyer who is willing to pay for your compensation? That makes his offer now more attractive to those sellers.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you spin it.
Yeah.
There's always a positive way to spin that. But if you have on the opposite end, if you have a buyer that really definitely cannot afford to pay their agent compensation, okay, well then we're going to look at properties where we're going to get a little bit better of a deal on it. you know?
Right.
It's always better to look at something in a positive way than a negative way.
Absolutely. And that was the amazing thing about that lawsuit and the announcement of everything is how many realtors started running around with like chickens with their head cut off.
Very scared
Yeah.
and not knowing, you know, what their
Leaving their
future-
team,
Yeah.
hanging up their license.
Yeah.
Our team, opposite.
Opposite. Yeah.
I think you have to be able to like look at the good in it. You know, I
Yeah.
know for
Yes.
us, one of the things was it's going to pick out those buyers who are not are not serious, you
Yeah.
know, who don't really want to buy a house. and-
Correct. Window shoppers.
Yeah. Window shoppers who are window shopping for the next 5 years, you know. So,
My thing was that my favorite part about the whole thing was that it was getting rid of those same people that you're describing, but the agents. It was
Yeah.
getting rid of the agents.
that
All the
too.
dabblers, the part-time
Yes.
dabblers. They're like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I don't know how to, you know, there's so many agents out there that don't even know how to articulate their value.
Yeah.
So how are they going to go and expect a buyer to sign a piece of paper saying that they're going to be compensated when they don't even have the value to show them what they're going to do?
Right.
So if you're doing 2 homes a year and, you know, you really don't have that volume, then what are you bringing to the table? I mean,
Right.
nothing against those people. I mean, to each his own, but
Yeah, you have to have the ability to articulate the market
Right.
and the new rules. And
so it's
all
a
that.
huge opportunity for teams like us and agents like us to take a piece of the market share out from those people that are leaving the industry. So actually, I think it's more for us.
Right,
Yeah, that's it.
right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be trying to keep it at a steady schedule, and eventually we're going to get live with you guys. So I'm not going to throw anything out there too serious yet, but it's coming.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's.